What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now, Matt Patricia, as I've said multiple times over the past couple days, you're probably getting sick of me hearing it. Matt Patricia was officially relieved of duty on Saturday. And this, I promise, will be the last time we talk about Matt Patricia's firing. This will be the last time that we talk about Matt Patricia's, getting rid of Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. But I did think this video was important to make because Patricia, for all of his faults, for all of his flaws, I think had one major issue in his first year when he first got here that set him up for failure and just truly sealed his fate before it really even began. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about Patricia's fatal flaw, what he did wrong when he got to the organization, and how it set him up for failure for the remainder of his tenure. Now, before we get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It only takes 2 seconds out of your day to do so, and it helps the channel out more than you could know. So if you do that, just take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. But with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into talking about Matt Patricia's fatal flaw and what he did when he got here to set him up for failure and seal his fate before he even had a chance to start. Now, Matt Patricia, as the Detroit Lions head coach, showed many flaws. His schemes were not great, his tactics weren't great, his adjustments weren't great. But even with all of that being said, I truly think that you can boil down Matt Patricia's failure in the Motor City to one particular moment and one particular thing. Matt Patricia demanded respect when he got here before he earned it, and he did not give the same respect back to his players. Now, Matt Patricia, obviously, when he got here, was not liked by the media, was not necessarily liked by his players because of the approach he took when he got the job. Now, Matt Patricia got here and he wanted to be Bill Belichick. He wanted the respect, he wanted the stature, he wanted the, representation of Bill Belichick and the representation and the reputation that Bill Belichick had. He wanted that. He was now a head coach. He was a big-time coach. He was coaching for one of the 32 NFL franchises and one of the most historic franchises in NFL history. Matt Patricia wanted respect immediately, and he demanded it. He was cruel to his players. He was mean. He belittled them. He insulted them. He threatened them. He demanded respect, and that did not go over well with the players. I don't think it was necessarily the fact that he demanded respect that lost his players' interest and it ultimately lost him his job, but I think the way he went about going with his players, the way he went about not respecting his own players that were on the roster is what truly sealed Matt Patricia's fate. Now, we all know the story of Darius Slay, right? We know that in a team meeting, Matt Patricia called him out. He said some pretty insulting things that I can't repeat on camera, and was very cruel to Darius Slay. Was very mean, belittled him, made him feel bad. Obviously, that sounds childish, right? But Matt Patricia came in and belittled his players. He threatened his players. He told Darius Slay something I can't even repeat on camera, and right then and there, he lost his players' respect because you, as a rookie head coach, do not come in and tell an all-pro cornerback that he is not good enough. You do not come in and tell an all-pro cornerback what Matt Patricia told Darius Slay, and that was not the only incident. That was not the only thing that Matt Patricia did to lose respect, but that was the big and wide-known thing. There's a reason that multiple former players of the Detroit Lions came out and took shots at Patricia after he was fired. These players include Darius Slay, A'Shawn Robinson, Ziggy Ansah, Stephen Tulik, Eric Ebron, and even Glover Quinn, one of the most classy and one of the players on the team that had the most class and the most veteran experience. All of these players came out and took shots at Matt Patricia. A'Shawn Robinson even came out and said that Matt Patricia told him he would take his career from him. You do not tell a player that when you are a rookie head coach. You don't do that. That is a mistake. That was Matt Patricia's biggest flaw. He demanded respect. He expected to be respected, and he was not respected by the players. And in fact, the way he went about earning or trying to earn that respect is what ultimately lost him all his respect, ultimately lost him all his good players, and ultimately is what set the Detroit Lions up in the situation they are today, or they are in today. Matt Patricia was not a good coach. He did not have good tactics. He did not put players in good positions. He did not have a good scheme. He did not make well in-game adjustments. He had a lot of flaws. He definitely had his flaws. He was not a great head coach. But I truly believe, and I truly think, that if Matt Patricia, when he came in as a rookie coach, worked with his players versus working by himself and saying screw you to the rest of his team, if he worked with Darius Slay, if he worked with A'Shawn Robinson and explained what he wanted them to do, I think that he could have convinced them to stay. I think he could have convinced them to be Detroit Lions, and I think both of them could still be here today if Matt Patricia's approach to the situation was a little different. Even if Matt Patricia wanted his respect, even if he wanted to move corner, even if he wanted to change the system, and he wanted to change the scheme, and he wanted to change how certain players are doing certain things on the field, there are better ways to go about changing a culture. There are better ways to go about changing play styles than to tell Darius Slay that he is not good enough and that he needs to stop doing what Matt Patricia told him to do. There is a better way to go about coaching a defensive tackle, a young and talented defensive tackle in A'Shawn Robinson, than threatening to take his career away from him. There were better ways to handle situations. There were better ways for Matt Patricia to go out about being the new head coach of the Detroit Lions that he just never considered, because when he walked in as a Belichick disciple, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and now the head coach of the Detroit Lions with a GM that fully had his back and fully had his support, he expected that respect that Bill Belichick had. He expected his players to just bow down to him, and he expected his players to just go with everything that he suggested and everything that he wanted to do. His players showed the slightest bit of resistance, and he called them out in the media. Darius Slay showed the slightest sign of resistance to the Matt Patricia way, and Matt Patricia immediately wanted him gone. A'Shawn Robinson showed the slightest change and the slightest disagreement with Matt Patricia, and Matt Patricia threatened to end his career. Glover Quinn might have disagreed with him, might not have, I don't know, but he obviously had some disagreements with Matt Patricia because he was putting on social media how happy he was that he was gone, and Glover Quinn probably had some arguments and probably had some different ideas than Matt Patricia, and Matt Patricia benched Glover Quinn in the first game and didn't let him play, and really hindered Glover Quinn's, really hindered his usage and really hindered his ability to play football because Matt Patricia just didn't like him. He didn't want to put his best players on the field, and that was one of Matt Patricia's bigger flaws, was personnel issues and tactics and all that. But I truly believe that if he just came in and worked with his players versus working against his players, this Lions team looks very different. If Matt Patricia comes in and works with the players, works with what they're doing well, built on what Jim Caldwell had built, then the Lions team would look different. A'Shawn would still be here. Ziggy would still be here. Darius Slay would still be here. Prandre Diggs would still be here. All of these good players. Glover Quinn might have still retired, but he would have still been here and would have still been playing much, much longer if Matt Patricia had just come in and shown a little bit of respect to his veteran players and shown a little bit of respect to the all-pro cornerback Darius Slay. I do not mind Matt Patricia coming in. He was not brought in to build a culture, but I understand that he had his defensive tendencies. I understand that Matt Patricia had a couple of things he wanted to change, and I understand that this team needed to change a couple of things to be true competitors and be true contenders. But Matt Patricia went about installing, and he went about the installation of these tactics and of these different ways very incorrectly. Matt Patricia came in and wanted to be a dictator. He wanted to be Bill Belichick. He wanted absolute power. He did not want to admit that Jim Caldwell had a good system. He did not want to build on Jim Caldwell's system. He wanted to replace it. He wanted to install his own system, his own ideas, his own players, his own coaches. He wanted to rebuild the Detroit Lions in his image, and in doing so, he put this team up to fail from the very beginning, and he set himself up to fail from the very beginning. He made his job 10 times harder than it had to be. If he worked with Darius Slay and built a positive relationship with Darius Slay, Darius would have been more willing to change, and Darius Slay would have been more willing to adjust to a Matt Patricia system. If he was willing to work with his players, would be in such a better position right now that we're not even talking about Matt Patricia being fired. We're not even necessarily talking about Matt Patricia being a bad head coach right now if he were to just work with his players versus working against them and working to completely replace what they had worked on the past 4 years and what the Lions had built the past 4 years. I truly believe that if Matt Patricia just comes in and has a different way of going about installing his ideas, if he comes in and builds off of Jim Caldwell versus trying to replace Jim Caldwell, I think we're talking about the Quinn Tricia era and the Matt Patricia era specifically in a very different light. Do the Lions win a Super Bowl if Matt Patricia has a different approach? Probably not. But are they a 3-13, 4-12, 6-10 team even if Matt Patricia comes in and works with his players? They are not. If Matt Patricia builds off what Jim Caldwell had versus trying to replace it, the Lions are still a 9-7 respectable football team. If Matt Patricia comes in and does not kick all of his good players out immediately, the Lions are sitting in a much better position right now. They are looking much better as a franchise and as an organization. And who knows? Maybe Matt Patricia makes the playoffs one year. Maybe Matt Patricia wins a bunch more games. Who really knows? We will never know because we'll never get to see it happen. But I truly think Matt Patricia set himself up to fail from the beginning. Matt Patricia came in and wanted the respect of Bill Belichick without having the resume of Bill Belichick, and that was his greatest downfall. He expected respect and he demanded respect without earning it, and he did not give the respect that he thought he deserved to the players. He did not respect his players. He did not want those players there. They were not his guys, so he did not want them, and as a result, he kicked them out of Detroit, and now the team is worse off for it. Matt Patricia's ego and Matt Patricia's style of coaching and style of how he came in is what led to the Lions' downfall, is what led to his own downfall, and is truly what sealed his fate before he even coached down in the NFL. That is my opinion, of course, and that is all I have to say on the topic. Again, this is going to be my last video on Matt Patricia being fired, but I think that this is truly what led to the Matt Patricia era being a failure. I think his approach to the game and his approach to this team was done very, very incorrectly and is ultimately what led to his downfall. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this. What do you guys think Matt Patricia's biggest flaw and his biggest problem was when he became the Lions head coach? Let me know that down in the comments below, but with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. If you are new to the channel, as I said in the beginning, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It only takes 2 seconds out of your day to do so. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all tomorrow with more Lions content. Bye, guys.